What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Tonight's guest is Jeff Frick. Jeff is a pinball collector based out of Texas, and he has a particular fascination with pre-war pinballs. He's also done great things at the Texas Pinball Festival with the History of Pinball booth, which has been recurring for several years now. Let's talk to Jeff.
Hello, this is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. It's Nick. How are you?
Hey, Nick. How are you?
Doing well.
So, it's good, and I have free time, and we're all good.
That's good. All right.
And now I'm staring at a bunch of parts that I need to put together, but that's a whole other story.
Well, we'll get there, I'm sure.
I'm sure we'll get there.
So, Jeff, let's get started, and why don't you tell me, to begin with, how old are you?
I just turned 48 today.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you, sir.
So how long have you been collecting pinball?
So my first machine I got was a Xenon in 1992, and I got it from a guy in Austin, Texas, that had it for $500, which now I think is, what a steal.
Mm-hmm.
And I had it for a number of years, and I thought it was a beautiful machine. So I started out in like the 1980s kind of SS era, which was really kind of cool at the time.
And had you played a lot of pinball coming up?
I did. When I was growing up, I had played pinball as a kid, and I remember like the EM pinballs, and I remember going to my uncle's house in Boston, and we went out to an arcade. It was a bowling alley. It was like a pigeon bowling alley, mm-hmm. which people down south don't know what that is. And they had a Hercules, and that really caught my attention, and that really stuck in my memory for the next 20 years until I actually found a pinball. and then in 1990 to like 1994, when Addams Family and Twilight Zone and Star Trek and Tommy and those machines came out, I was playing those like on a regular basis at the pool hall. And that's when I decided I should get one of my own, and I tracked down 2-Bit Arcade in Austin, which I don't think is all around any longer. And they actually had a Xenon sitting around it, and I bought it.
Cool. So tell me, pigeon bowling, is that similar to duck pin bowling?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I'm not real sure because I live in Texas,
mm-hmm.
and I think it's a similar thing. I think it's a northern thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me ask you, because I find this very interesting. At some point, you transitioned a bit in some of the things you were collecting and some of the games you were playing. And how exactly did that come about?
It's a good question, right? So I started out with some SS games, and those were very fun, and I enjoyed them a lot. And I had a Joker Poker, and I had a High Speed, which was a little bit later, and I had a Flash. And I really had an enjoyment with the EM machine. So I had like a Williams Jubilee, which a lot of people don't like, but I really think is a beautiful 2-player game, and a Space Odyssey, and a Big Top, Gottlieb 1964 Big Top, which was one of the Attaballs, really nice machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself going older and older and older in the machines. I ended up with a 1952 Pitch and Bat, which actually is still in my garage. A 1955 Captain Kidd, which I really enjoy. Duet, which was the first Gottlieb 2-player, and those are really good. And I had the opportunity. I was at a show, and one of my friends had a pre-war machine, and it was Airway, and I really looked at that machine. I was like, oh, it's easy to learn. It's fun to play. Let's go ahead and get it. And once I got that machine, it really sparked something because I realized how easy they were for everybody to enjoy, to play, to learn the rule set. And that struck a chord. And that's when I started my pre-war journey.
Excellent. So, from Airway, you bought it, I assume, working? Or did you have to do any work to it?
Airway was pretty much complete. It's a nice survivor.
Mm-hmm.
The cabinet's beautiful. The playfield's beautiful. Everything plays. And I had took it to, so I bought it, and I made sure it was cleaned up, and I did a little bit of cleanup to it, just a little waxing. And I took it to Texas Pinball Festival in, hold on, I got to look at this, in 2015. And there were really no other pre-wars at the festival, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was, it was my Airway in the same group as a bunch of early EMs, and it won second place.
Cool.
And that kicked it off, right? I was like, oh, well, people enjoy this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Airway itself, and if people haven't seen it, what it is there are 10 holes with different cities. It's an airplane game. So each airplane has a different city. It has Detroit and Kansas City and Chicago. And the objective is to get all 10 balls in all 10 holes. And everybody enjoyed playing that. I only had 9 balls in the game, and I told people that if they got all 10 balls in all 10 holes, I'd give them $100. Now, it's gambling, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'll go into that, right? So, people enjoyed trying to get that goal,
mm-hmm.
right? And all of these games are gambling games. All the pre-war games pretty much are the precursor of the bingos that you like,
mm-hmm.
and everything else, right?
Oh, yeah.
So people are like, oh my God, I got eight balls or 9 balls. And I'm like, oh, you didn't get 10 balls. I'm sorry. Well, there are only 9 balls in the game. So people really enjoyed that challenge. And it was easy to approach and easy to understand what you had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't do it, which is that one more game kind of feel. The same thing you play with, like, if you play like a 79 Steve Ritchie Flash, right? It's one more game. It's so fun, and I can almost get to the goal,
mm-hmm.
but I can't quite do it, right?
Yep.
And once I saw people do that, and once I saw that I got the ribbon for it, I was like, this is awesome. I really enjoy it. I want to explore more of the, 1932 to 1937 kind of games.
Well, so tell me a bit about that. What's the next game that showed up in your collection, and how did that come about?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So the next pre-war game, right, because
Right.
there were all kinds of games going in between. The next pre-war game was, so the friend I bought the Airway from, he goes, well, I happen to have a World Series. And I was like, I didn't know what a World Series was. I'm like, what is that? So I went and explored, right? And it's a Rockola World Series,
mm-hmm.
which is one of the 3 trifecta games that Rockola produced. They produced a World Series, a Jigsaw, and an Army Navy.
Mm-hmm.
He happened to have a collection of 3 of them, 2 of them mostly complete, and one of them is a parts game. And he made me a very good deal on all 3 of them. And I was like, I'd really like to have a kind of rarer game that people really enjoy. So I bought all 3 of them. and because why not, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and I got the game, and I got it up and running. And for people that don't know, World Series is a game where when you shoot the ball, it comes down into a baseball field. And once it lands in the baseball field randomly decides whether you get a single, double, triple, or a home run. And it works kind of like a Swiss clock. So that mechanism underneath has to be precisely tuned for the game to work right. It's really fun to see people's face when they get a triple and the game goes ching, 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 ching.
Mm-hmm.
Is amazing, right? And there's no electricity. And people are like, oh, there's no electricity? Again, no, there's no electricity. So I restored that game, and that game won first place. So now I'm hooked, right? I won a second place. I won a first place. It's on at that point. At that point, I'm the pre-war guy. So at that point, I ended up talking to Ed Vanderveen, who runs Texas Pinball Festival. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if we did this booth that had games that were pre-war? Because the year before, the airway was just in the middle of random games.
Right.
And he said, well, that would be cool. Do you think you could fill it out? I posted on Pinside, and I posted on a couple different forums, and I was like, everybody bring your games. Let's have a place where we can actually play them. Not where you can just touch them or look at them, but where you can play the game. And I had a great response. People brought all their games. We had 15 games the first year in the pre-war booth, the History of Pinball booth. It was amazing, right? We had a number of 1932 tabletop games. We had stand-up games from 33 and 34, and people had an amazing time. And the organizers of Texas Pinball Festival were happy because we had the community that brought all the games in, and it was very well received. So now we're 3 years down the road, and this year we're putting in. There's another 15 games coming. Right? We've had Rockola Jigsaw. We've had Rockola World Series. And this year I'm bringing a Rockola Army-Navy, which is probably the rarest of the Army-Navy games.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing.
I'll talk all night, so ask your question.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, I wanted to dive a little bit into how the mechanics work in some of these games, because from my perspective, I've seen them. I've been lucky enough to touch a couple of the Rockolas, but I've never played or gotten deep into the mechanics of most of them. I've played a World Series, but I haven't played the others, and I don't know how the mechanism works for World Series. So if you wouldn't mind just explaining how that Swiss watch exactly keeps its time.
Sure. So you are coming to Texas Pinball Festival this year, right? And we'll absolutely show this for real. So, because we'll do a video blog. So let's talk about World Series in general. So in World Series, what happens is when the ball rolls down the playfield, you end up on a bases disc is the way to describe it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's baseball. You end up with a home plate, a first base, a second base, and a third base. And I'm touching my machine as I'm explaining this. So when you land on the first base, it pushes a actuator down, and that actuator allows the star wheel to turn around. Now, the star wheel is made in such a way that it allows, the star wheel is made in such a way that it is a pattern, right? Don't tell people this. I know this isn't going to be online. So, right? So yeah. The star wheel turns in such a pattern that you get like a single, a double, a triple, or a home run.
Okay.
So there's a pattern once you figure it out.
The actuator basically releases a cam and allows it to rotate. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
Absolutely correct.
Cool.
Now, in addition to your play field, the beauty of the World Series is there is an outs casting up top. Mm-hmm. And the outs casting, when you get balls into it, will collect 3 strikes, and it will give you an out, or 4 balls, and it will give you a run, and it will run into the playfield. So once you get 3 strikes and you get your out, you get 3 outs, and the game's over, and at that point, you can't push in the ball load anymore. I just pushed in the ball load. And then the game's over.
Huh. So it's keeping track similar to the later Rockola World Series games did as well. So there's kind of a casting that controls with the weight of the balls where the balls travel. Is that how that works, or are there subways and tunnels?
In World Series case, it falls through a hole that hits an actuator that makes the outs unit advance by 1.
I see.
Once the outs unit advances all the way, then it locks the load rod, so you can't load any more balls into the game.
Interesting. And
right?
Yeah.
Similar to Army-Navy. So in Army-Navy, you can set it to 2.5 balls for a football quarter or 3 balls for a football quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And once that ball goes down and scores either goals or a field goal or runs, right, you don't get any more play out of that.
Okay.
So, and if you notice, a lot of the pre-war games, and even into today, baseball is a very popular theme,
mm-hmm.
right? So like just today, I looked at a 32 machine that you got to write your own scores on the playfield. I thought that was really cool.
Interesting.
They tend to be popular themes: the baseball, the football, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So those are two of the trifecta there, but the third one is quite different. And that's the World's
Jigsaw.
Fair Jigsaw, right?
Yeah, the Jigsaw. So the Jigsaw came about in the Chicago's World's Fair, and at that fair, Jigsaw puzzles had just taken off. It was a new thing. People loved Jigsaw puzzles, and the game is similar but different, as my friend said. So when you shoot the ball, as the ball comes down the playfield, it can either hit a hole that turns the jigsaw puzzles over. They start out like up and you turn them over. Mm-hmm. Or it can hit a jigsaw puzzle, which also turns the puzzle over. Once you have the puzzle flat, as if you've done the puzzle, then you win.
Mm-hmm.
And that game's amazing. And I have one in the queue right now. I just haven't gotten to it.
And so are there different cards that you can put in, say 8 balls, 10 balls, or are they typically 10 ball operated?
On the Rockola? No.
Yes.
Like most of the Rockola are standard. Mm-hmm. I know on the Army-Navy there's a 2.5 ball, 3 ball, a quarter adjustment, but the rest of them are pretty good. Actually, I've seen on the World Series, World Series is pretty much controlled by what you see on the back glass. I guess I'd call it a back glass. So there's a piece of paper on the back, and it says, I'm going to turn on the lights real quick so I can tell you exactly what it says. And this gets into the gambling because I love gambling, which is why I love bingos, which is why I love these machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on the play ball, which is World Series, so you get 5 skill points or 10 skill points for 5 runs. You get 15 skill points for 6 runs. Now, scoring 5, 6, 7, 8 runs on this machine is not an easy task, right? Mm-hmm. There's 15 balls in the game. The most runs you can score mathematically is 12 runs, at which you get 100 skill points, which I suspect I want 3 beers and a pack of cigarettes for 12 skill points. Right, in 1930. It's the same thing with bingo, right? So I had a Cypress Gardens for a while, right? It's the same thing. You get your magic screen and you get your blue and you might win a beer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other part of the pre-wars that I really enjoy.
It's that gambling aspect, huh?
Is that gambling aspect. So the airway, which is airplanes, mm-hmm. and you get, it's the first game with the automatic scoring. Mm-hmm. There's a sister game to it called Rocket, and it has cars instead of airplanes. Mm-hmm. Rocket was the payout machine, and so the mechanism inside of it is a standard slot machine mechanism.
Right.
And so as the nickels go in, when you get 1,000, 900, 800, 700, 600, any score after that, out of your 10 scores, pops nickels out the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I like gambling. So that's exciting to me. And at the Texas Pinball Festival, I can promote that, right? I can give away spider rings, or I can give away challenge coins based on if you can score the score on the machine. And as everybody knows, you're not going to be able to score on the score on the machine. These things were made to make money for the operators.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right.
So, Rocket, does that have a payout drawer? I mean, does it pay into a hidden compartment?
It does. There's 10 holes on the top, and they have what they call toilet seats, right? Which is a round little circle that closes down as the ball goes into the hole. So on the left-hand side, there's a drawer, and if you score the proper scores, which on most of the valleys were 10 or 1,000 through 600. Anything after that, the electronics in it allowed the payout mechanism to drop nickels, pennies, whatever it was set for, out to the left-hand side. And then you'd slide it out and take your money and sneak away. What I find interesting about those valley payouts is those payout mechanisms are pretty similar across most of the 1934 to about 1937. You have to get the top 5 ones, and then anything after that you can pay out. So, interestingly enough, this year at Texas Pinball Festival, at the History of Pinball Festival booth, we're going to have some Jennings out there on display. We're going to have a Jennings Sportsman and another Jennings that are both payout machines as well.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I've always been fascinated with the payout machines.
I like the Jennings machines. They're so pretty.
They're beautiful, yeah.
I need a couple of them. I'm just saying.
So,
after, I've collected the trifecta. It's the Army Navy, which is, there's 22 known right now. Mm-hmm. And it's football. It's Army Navy, and for people that haven't seen it, when you shoot the ball, it goes into holes on the board, just like a lot of the pre-wars when you look at them, and you can get yards for your Army team or your Navy team, right? And if you haven't served, it doesn't matter, but if you have served, then it's a game, and you need to get it for your team. So then as you score points, you get your points on your score reels. Mm-hmm. So there's only 21 known. And it's an amazing machine. And we're going to have it on display this year, and next year we're going to have it available for everybody to play. And that's one of the things that we'd like to do at the Texas Pinball Festival booth, is have the machines ready to play. I've had a number of people come up and go, I can't believe that you actually have these machines. Charlie from Seattle Pinball Museum, he said exactly that to me. He goes, I can't believe that you let people play them. And my response is always, these machines have been in a bar for 70 years.
Right.
They've had beer spilled on them. They've had people probably vomit on them. Mm-hmm. They've had people have sex on them probably. I think people can play them for 3 days. And the response is amazing. Last year we had a jigsaw that won first place for pre-1962.
Wow.
And we had, I want to say he had 800 plays on that machine.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. People enjoy it.
Yeah. So, talk to me more about Army Navy. How did you come across this one?
That's a game. So as all the pre-war collectors, I've been on the prowl for an Army Navy for years. It's not an easy game to come by. With 21 around, you either buy one that's been restored, and there are a number of restorers out there that are just amazing would be the right word.
Mm-hmm.
And this one came up via a friend of a friend that had one from England. And the gentleman in England had bought it in the 80s and hadn't done anything with it. And he offered it up for a price that was acceptable, and I bought it. So currently, it's a project, but I like projects. I'm good at projects. This year, it's going to be on display, and next year it's going to be completely restored and playable by the entire public.
That's great.
And I think that makes me more happy than anything else. To see people walk up, like, so the coolest thing is, like, let's just talk about World Series. World Series, like, has a lot of action on it, and it's really cool when, like, the bases turn around, but people walk up to it and they go, oh, it's just like a pachinko machine, right? Which some of the 32 machines and earlier are, right?
Yeah.
You do the ball and it falls in a hole, and then when you reset it, the ball falls through. But with World Series, there's action, right? There's like the beginning of more game. And you'll see these people come up and they'll get a double, and the ball will go around, and the look on their face is pure delight. And that's why I do the booth. Yeah,
it's great that you and the other collectors share these games with the public. It's amazing, in fact.
And they're also easy to bring in and out of the festival.
Yeah, that's.
But I didn't say that on online on a podcast.
Especially talking to a bingo guy.
I'm just saying. Oh, don't start me on that. That thing is so hard to move, right? So let's talk bingo, right? So
sure.
I ended up getting the Cypress Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
I went over to I searched Craigslist and do the standard kind of, I'm going to get games before you thing. And I had an opportunity. I saw Cypress Gardens come up.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to the lady's house, and her husband had bought the machine like 40 years ago, and it was his favorite bingo machine. And he had bought it when he was a kid, and all of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I was pretty good at EM machines, right? I can fix an EM machine in my sleep. But I'm like, oh my God! I was like, if anyone's opened the back door of one of those bingo machines, it's a little bit of a nightmare. So I bought it, right? Because why not? I like it. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought it home, and I restored it, and I got it working. And it was incredibly fun, especially back to the gambling aspect, right? Because you just shove nickels in that, right? And you got to get Cypress Gardens. Is it a magic screen? Is that the right term?
It's a magic.
You're the big guy, not me.
Magic squares.
Magic squares, right? So you have yellow and red and blue, and it was incredibly fun. And I enjoyed that machine so much. And I really would like someone to bring one to Texas Pinball Festival.
Sounds like a hint.
I'm just saying. The problem, I don't. So my question to you is, how would you do that? Because you can't put in nickels. You have to have all machines set on free play.
Yeah, it's there's a way to do it.
All right, fair enough.
You got to rig them up.
So I like. It rig them up. Excellent. It's the same kind of feeling. Like, okay, I can do this. I just got to put like 3 more credits in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then when you get it in, you're like, oh, I got it.
Yep.
Right. But at the History of Pinball booth, you can get it, but you got to get it first, and then I might give you a spider. That's the way it works.
Yeah, I've done something similar at the York show, where I give out books or T-shirts or something like that for people who make a 4 or 5 in a line. That's a pretty big feat. No,
absolutely it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate immensely what you're doing because I obviously see the value. I'm doing it myself, on the bingo side. So
right.
So If the right bingo fell into your lap, what's one that you would like? Would you like another Magic Squares game, or
I do like those Magic Squares. I like when you can change your odds based on moving your card.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So I like those type of themes.
Well,
although like there's such a similarity between some of the pre-wars and some of the bingos,
mm-hmm.
because a lot of the pre-wars you have 12 holes that you got to put the balls in.
Right.
If you don't put it in the right hole, then tough, move on.
Yep.
And some of the bingos are the same way.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That number 16.
Oh my God.
Right in the center. So yeah, it's
right. If you can you show me how you can get that, and then we're gonna have a conversation, right?
I'm not that good.
No, me neither. Go talk to Vic, right?
That's
and
right.
Then we'll talk, right? That's right.
That's right.
So, but it's the same concept.
Yep.
Right. It's a different incarnation of it, and it's probably 30 or 40 years later,
mm-hmm.
but it's the same concept, and that's the concept that has me hooked.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's the same concept as like if you go to Dave and Buster's today. Mm-hmm. And you go play your stupid coin game or your skee ball. Also, if anybody has a skee ball from 1930, I'm interested. So if you have those kind of things, you get your tickets, which is the same as points on some of the early pre-wars, right? You get your mm-hmm. points for your score, yep. which is the same on the bingo, right?
Yep. Yeah, and
right.
That's
you
exactly
walk up
what
to the
you're
bar,
doing.
You get a free beer. I'm good.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
Get a free pocket comb. Nowadays.
Sure. If that's what it is, I'm good to go.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you can apply that gambling aspect to most any game, and certainly the parallels are pretty stark when you look at redemption games, because that's exactly what they are.
Right. It's the gamification of your game, right? And so I'm a software programmer. I can gamify just about anything. And it all falls into that same genre, and it intrigues me.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's circle back to Army Navy for a moment, and the mechanism on that is really interesting.
It's the most complex mechanism on a pre-war game that ever existed. I think that's the contention across the board.
So, what makes it so? Explain the mechanism to me, if you can. Or is it too complicated?
It would be easy. It would be easier to take a picture, right? Okay. So hold on, let me turn it around, because my playfield's actually sitting against my wall. And let me see if I can explain it as part of it falls off. That's a whole nother story. So I don't know how to explain it. Like it's incredibly complicated. The ball. So if you think about football, mm-hmm. you can score yards if you run yards, or you can score a touchdown, or you can score a field goal. And the ball, and so on the Army Navy, what happens is when you shoot the ball goes into the playfield, and the playfield has a number of different holes you can go into. If you go into 30 or 40 yards or 20 yards or any number of yards, the mechanism on the bottom, which looks like a football playfield, goes left or right depending on what team you have scored yards for. It's a chain that's operated off a couple of actuators depending on the number of yards that you have put the ball in. I guess that's the easiest way to describe it. So also, you can go in and you can get on the playfield and get a field goal at which the ball goes all the way to the end, drops in the score hole, and your score reel advances to the number of points that you've gotten. It seems oversimplified, but it's incredibly complicated when you look at the back.
It sounds complicated. So
I'm just saying it. It's think about football. I mean,
yeah.
Make metal parts that do football. That's the
challenge.
problem. That's the challenge.
So, how does the ball load into the football field?
So the ball loads into a football field just like any other game. You, on the pre-wars, you normally have a plunger, and that plunger actually goes up through 1964, I want to say, 64, 65, 64. So you have a plunger that pushes the ball onto your play field, and then you have a shooter rod that puts your ball into play.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So same mechanism, and it's interesting that mechanism doesn't get changed for 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was actually talking about the ball that sits in the football playfield down at the bottom.
Oh, in the football playfield down at the bottom.
Yes.
So depending on where you drop the pinball, the marble, isn't the marble, goes into the loader for the football playfield and then moves left or right depending on the number of yards you've gotten.
So is there a trough or something that holds the marble? Once it dumps into the score pocket, I guess my question is, how does it know to load another one?
There's a trough. That's an easy way to describe it.
Okay.
I would say an incredibly complicated, over-engineered trough.
Okay. Just thinking, looking at pictures of it, I'm imagining,
sure.
How you would fight the gravity there. It seems very difficult mechanically.
No, absolutely, and that's why I say that this is one of the most complicated mechanical games ever. And this was the last mechanical game that Ruckhall ever produced. Every game afterwards was had some kind of electricity associated with it.
Okay. And none of the trifecta are payout games directly, correct?
No, not at all. Not at all, unless you look at the back glass.
Right.
right.
No one looks at that.
Because the back glass is obviously payout, right?
Right.
But not internally, right? It's not like the Bally's where you have a 1933 Rocket that was the first payout game, mm-hmm. where it pretty much has the same slot machine payout mechanism that I have on a 1975 Harrah's slot machine. It's almost exact.
It's incredible that design was so well engineered in the 30s, that they used it.
That they still use
forever.
It. Absolutely,
yeah.
right? It's almost the exact same thing. In fact, I would bet it's the same thing today.
Yeah. So, although a lot of them just print a ticket now. That's a little less fun.
No, but they have a Godzilla one and an Aliens one, so I'm happy, right? I'm happy.
There you go. So, what's next on the pre-war sites for you? Is there anything in particular you're looking for aside from the skee ball?
In terms of games?
Yeah.
So, I want a Jennings Sportsman. That's big on my list right now. I like that game. It's an early payout machine. Mm-hmm. The theme is very Texas, I would say, right? It's going in hunting, right? So, and it's a beautiful game. If you go look at the game from the Art Deco standpoint, mm-hmm. it's absolutely gorgeous. And that's another aspect of the games I really like is the Art Deco game. A game I'm looking at right now is a 1932 Genko's Jiggers, mm-hmm. and it's very Art Deco. It has the colors, it has the silver, it has the very sharp lines that our whole Art Deco movement had. Very pretty, I guess would be the right word.
I'm a big fan of the Art Deco games myself.
Oh, absolutely, right?
What's not to love?
So, what's not to love? That's exactly right. Right? Last year we had 3 or 4, some of the early colored games, the big, bright yellow, blue, green, and that was really a 1932 kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then as you moved up, later into 32, you had Airway, and then when you get to like 33 and 34, you get World Series, and you can really see the progression of the mechanics and the engineering. And then you start getting into the 40s, right? And you get the back glasses. It's actually 36, 37. You get the back glasses with the lights in it. Mm-hmm. You move up from there, and you start, you get the flipperless games. You get to 47, and you get Humpty Dumpty and Cinderella, which are beautiful games. If you've ever played a Cinderella or Humpty Dumpty, those games they're super fun, but you have to realize how to play them.
Right.
You have to volleyball your ball across the table, up and down. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not a deep game, and there's not a big rule set, but once you learn how to play it, it's challenging.
I agree. Wholeheartedly.
Right. And wholeheartedly. And I would rather do challenging than some kind of deep rule set that I can't understand.
Same here.
Not that I can't understand it, but
yeah, but I'm sure
I want to complete the challenge.
Yeah, my time is limited when I have time to play. I want to get down. I want to be challenged by the machine. I want to have kind of a little battle, and
that's correct, and be done.
Then move on. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
The pre-war games are perfect for that.
They are
this compartmentalized challenge.
Yes. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
Right. So my girlfriend feels the same way. She's like, she wants to get 10 holes and 10 balls on Airway. Mm-hmm. No one's ever done it. I've offered $100 for all 10 balls and all 10 holes. I only put 9 balls in the machine, but no one's ever done it. No one's even got 9 balls in the machine. Right? So it's a compartmentalized challenge, and I really enjoy that description because it accurately describes what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So let's also talk about parts for these machines.
Yes.
All right? So parts for these machines are hard to come by now. The machines, you either find parts machines or you don't get a part and your machine sits for the years. So what we've been trying to do lately with History of Pinball is reproduce a lot of these parts. Mm-hmm. And we've had some good success. We have done some 3D modeling and printing, and we've sold a couple right now that have brought some of these machines back to life. And that's the goal for us, is not to make a profit and not to make money, but is to bring these machines back to life. There are so many of these machines that are parted out because 1 or 2 parts aren't available anymore. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to make these parts available.
That's fantastic. So I saw you posted the lifter casting.
The lifter.
Is that right?
And we've restored 2 machines based on that lifter.
That's
which
great.
Makes me incredibly happy.
Right?
Sure. 2 machines that couldn't play, that were going to be parts machines that I was trying to buy for cheap. We ended up restoring them, and now I can't buy them for cheap anymore.
That's a blessing and the curse.
Saying. Huh? Just saying, right?
So,
but it's wonderful. Like, to me,
yeah.
that's my main goal with reproducing parts is taking these machines and, like, Buck works for all those people that have Rockolas that need parts that aren't available. They make so many parts available, and it's an old Hallow Works site, and there are parts that they don't make, and so we're trying to make the parts that they don't make, at least in the Rockola era. And there may be other machines that we do that for. We just need the demand.
Right. And the specs, I would assume. Or an actual part to model from.
Yeah. Well, absolutely the parts to model from. So the way we did that is we took existing parts that we had on file, mm-hmm. we measured them, we modeled them in SolidWorks, and then we print them out. And what we found is that the parts that we've modeled have been almost perfect accurate.
Wow.
Which is really good, because we measure to the millimeter, we do all that kind of thing.
That's great. So what kind of material are you printing with?
So the printing material that we have available to us ranges from anything from cheap plastic to an industrial nylon, which isn't metal, but still acts as well as metal according to the specs, to metal. We can print in stainless steel, gold, platinum. You want platinum parts, I can do it, right? It's all good, right?
Yeah.
So we have done, for the Rock All World Series, we've done a ball lifter, and we've done the outs unit. The outs unit is notoriously hard to find. There's a gentleman that printed some a couple of years ago. They're not available anymore. And we have just printed one in a shiny stainless steel, and it hopefully will be displayed on the second World Series that I'm bringing to TPF this year.
That's great. That's fantastic.
It's amazing, right? And
yeah,
we've had people go, "Oh, can you do this part, this leg part, or this part?" We're like, absolutely. Right?
Wow.
My goal is to get as many pre-wars as possible back on the market, because I have not seen people that don't enjoy them. Everybody enjoys them.
That's fantastic. That's what it's all about, sharing it. So
it is.
That's great. So can you tell me about the lineup for this year's History of Pinball?
You're going to make me think. So, let's see. So, from my end, I'm bringing 5 machines. I'm bringing an Airway. I'm bringing 2 Rock All World Series. I'm bringing an Army Navy. I'm bringing a Genko Jiggers. Then we have a Spot Ball coming. We have a Bally Blue Ribbon coming, which is the Cars version of Airway. There's a payout version called Rocket that maybe it might come or not. We're going to have a German. This is a really weird machine. It actually takes electricity. It's a German machine, and the playfield is all polished stainless steel.
Ooh, okay.
And I think it's called Electromatic AB. We're going to have a Bally Fleet, which is one of the first games with a solenoid.
Yeah.
When you get the ball into the center cannon, it'll shoot out, and then all your balls will go up into the bonus area. I don't know how many I've named, but that's the starting lineup. Normally, we end up with about 15 machines in the pre-war booth.
That's amazing as well. So
it's good, and we're not the only booth that does that. So if you go to the Orlando show,
yes,
another gentleman named Jeff, right? Because we have a corner on the market. He does a pre-war booth, and I think he brought 30 games this year.
Wow. That's
of all different kinds. So we're a small community. We're always trying to combine to make the best experience for all the players out there.
Well, you do a fantastic job, and I love seeing you promote these pre-war games and the pre-war parts especially, and the history of pinball at TPF. I think that's vital.
History of Pinball TPF 2018. Woo woo!
And
you know what? And I have to give big shout outs for TPF, for the organizers, the Vanderveens and Paul, allowing us to put the booth out there. I mean, because they could go, oh, that's not pinball, right? So, but they're dedicated to that, and the community that comes to the festival that brings their machines, because I can only do so much, right? I can only bring so many machines, but the community brings the machines and the attitude and and all of that, and it's really exciting, and people come through that, and you see people have the greatest time, and it's great. Also, we bet $1 a game after hours.
Shh. So, dollar games on a 9-ball.
Exactly, right? Right? Who gets the best score? So we're hoping you come down.
Well,
just so I can take your money. But
yeah, exactly. Sounds like a theme here.
I'm just saying.
So, well, I don't think I'll be able to make it this year. However, it is in the cards for next year, and History
Excellent.
Pinball booth will be first thing on my list after setting up.
Well, you need to bring a bingo game down, and we'll put it in the booth.
I might
because I'm like I try to equate myself to the freak show of the circuit, and bingo games would fit excellently in there.
Hey, wait a minute.
I'm just saying, all right?
Yeah, I mean that. I think it's going to be great fun, and like I say, I see the pictures. It's incredible. It looks amazing. I can't believe that you're able to get that much collector interest together to bring these games.
That's absolutely. And anybody that wants to look at that, please go to facebook.com/pre-war pinball and take a look at what we do, and feel free to join and get your pre-war machines and bring them and display them. But you have to let people play them. That's one of the biggest things at the booth is it's not a display booth. It's not something that people come and look at and it's an oddity. Mm-hmm. You get to play the machines. And I think people enjoy that the most.
So no velvet ropes, huh?
Well, this year. But most years no. Most years no.
Gotcha. Well, Jeff, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about here as far as TPF goes, History of Pinball, or these fantastic pre-war machines?
No, I think we've covered it, right? Like we love the pre-war. TPF is a wonderful venue for us to play with, and anybody that's not been needs to go. The pre-war machines are wonderful, and I hope people can play one and figure out how fun it is. Like if you go to, if you've been to the Alameda Museum in California, what is that one called? It's called
Pacific Pinball.
Pacific Pinball, right? So all their pre-wars are roped off. Mm-hmm. That's no fun. You got to come play them. Playing them is good. Bring your kids. Bring your wife. Bring your husband, right? Mm-hmm. And then bet them $1. and see you win.
Bet Jeff $1. Even better.
Yeah, bet me $1. I'll win. Don't bet me $1. That's not good. All right?
Well, awesome. Thanks for your time, Jeff, and I've really appreciated talking to you, and hope everybody gets out and explores the history of pinball at Texas Pinball Festival. And can you give us the dates for Texas Pinball Festival this year?
Yeah, the dates this year are March 2016 to 2018, St. Patty's Day weekend. We're going to have a booth. We're going to have at least 15 machines out there. Come play and say hello, and then play the other 400 pinball machines and 150 video games.
But the 15 are what's important, right?
No, it really is. It really is. It really is. And also, if you have one to sell, please contact me.
Always on the lookout, huh?
I'm just saying, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting, though. Like, that's an interesting topic. Is there are a number of machines that come through Craigslist or Facebook marketing or all that kind of stuff. And you know, sometimes they're missing coin doors. They don't have coin chutes on them, but they're out there. If that's something that you're interested in and want to collect, as a collector, they're out there. And the parts we can make, or they're available. So don't feel like it's a unattainable thing to get a pre-war machine in your collection. You might have a brand new Metallica or a highway alien that hopefully comes to my house in 2 weeks, and have a pre-war, have 2 or 3 pre-wars.
Yeah, definitely. And so...
And a bingo, and a nice bingo. Although you have to have 5 people to haul it up the stairs. But
you just need a couple good, strong people. That's the deal.
I'm just saying, those things are heavy, dude. That's the one thing. That's the one thing that really made me mad. It was heavy machines.
Yep. And the newer they are, the heavier they get until they turn solid state.
Oh my God.
But,
right.
So let me ask you this final question here, having to do with pre-wars.
Sure.
So it sounds like most of your acquisitions came through word of mouth, basically friends of friends or people that you knew. Where do you typically find them? I mean, outside of that, have you had good luck with Craigslist and Facebook and so forth?
I have. I've had really good luck with Craigslist. I've had really good luck with Facebook. What's that called? Marketplace.
Yeah.
Right. And just on the pinball thread, you search on pinball, and once every while you'll come up with a pre-war, and most of the pinball guys are not jumping on it.
Right.
So the price just sit a little bit. It'll come down to the right place. And like average price I've paid is, $100 to $300 for a machine. So they're not out of range.
Right.
Unless you start looking for oddballs or
Army Navy
or things that are super rare.
Right.
Yeah, Army Navy was not cheap. We'll just put it like that, right?
Oh yeah. Well, great.
So for example, I'll give it for example. So the Skenko jiggers I saw came up on Facebook Marketplace for $400, and I sent him a text message and was like, I'm interested, but I'm not paying $400 for the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of weeks later, we came to an agreement for $100.
Wow.
So, and I had to do a little bit of work on the coin slot. I had to do a little bit of work on the play field. But, now that it's together, I have a nice little working machine that's probably a $400 machine.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Right? So, people need to get their eyes out for that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Well, or send me an email. One of the two.
So, best way to get in touch with you as far as maybe coming to exhibit at the Texas Pinball Festival, if someone has a pre-war that's listening, or if they're interested in parts.
Absolutely. So 2 ways. So if you want to take your machine to Texas Pinball Festival, go to texaspinball.com and register your machine, and make sure that you say that you want to put it in the History of Pinball booth. Although if you bring a pre-war machine, it's going to the booth anyway. And then if you want to get in touch with me personally, you can go to facebook.com/pre-war pinball, or you can email pre-war-pinball at jealousofjeff.com, because everybody's jealous of Jeff.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much, Jeff. It's been great talking to you.
Absolutely, sir.
My thanks again to Jeff Frick for coming on the show and talking about these beautiful pre-war pinballs and the History of Pinball booth at Texas Pinball Festival. Those dates again, March 16th through 18th, 2018. Get out there, enjoy some pinball. Let me know what you think of these pre-wars. And that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for listening. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to me on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, Google Play Music, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can listen to me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.